Hey everyone, Mallory here. I'm thrilled to announce a new mini-series that we're dropping on the Higher Ed Pulse called A Guide to Graduate Marketing in 2024, a special 4-part series on how to increase collaboration between marketing and enrollment management functions on college and university campuses, hosted by Shane Baglini, who leads marketing at Muhlenberg College. Over the next 4 weeks, join Shane as he sits down with higher ed leaders and industry experts to discuss what the graduate student journey in 2024 looks like, what grad students actually want out of their campus experience, the pressure recruiters have to fill butts and seats as the undergraduate enrollment cliff approaches, and so much more. All right, friends, without further ado, get ready to meet your host, Shane Baglini.
Hello, and thanks for joining me for this special 4-part series on the Enrollify Network focused on graduate marketing and enrollment management. I'm Shane Baglini, Chief Marketing Officer at Muhlenberg College, and today I'm joined by Mike McGetrick, Vice President of Creative and Interactive Services at Spark 451. Mike has over 25 years of experience in higher ed and digital marketing and has worked at numerous New York-based agencies in motion graphics at Disney Television. Mike is also an adjunct professor in the art department at Brooklyn College, where he teaches graphic design, 3D and motion graphic design, and website development, and at NYU, where he teaches digital marketing. Mike has been a host faculty member for NAGAP Executive Professional Development Workshops on interactive marketing. Mike, thanks for joining me.
It's nice to be with you, Shane. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. So Mike, we've talked a lot about the graduate space based on our work together, but I'm interested for others to learn more about you, specifically your background in higher ed, and even more specifically your background in graduate marketing, because I know it's really kind of your specialty and a subject matter you're really passionate about.
Tell you a little bit about my background. I am an individual who started his career in the New York advertising world, coming out as an undergraduate, working in the creative side, creative departments of advertising agencies, and moving around a bit. I found myself at a regional agency that had a higher education practice. So they worked with a handful of schools and, did a really nice job of working with those schools. And I really became passionate about higher education marketing, really just learning the field and garnering all the adjacent knowledge that goes into marketing higher education, the cycles of it, undergraduate, and then ultimately working a lot in graduate and finding that just as fascinating. And in my humble opinion, perhaps a little bit more challenging. No disrespect to all our undergraduate colleagues out there. I love you guys so much. And we do, of course, lots of work on the undergraduate side. But graduate marketing is something I'm very passionate about. And I'm passionate about it for a number of reasons. First is that my journey personally, graduate education, was incredibly transformative. I started out in the creative field, so my undergraduate degrees were in writing and studio art. And so I just really felt like early in my career that everything was solved by those two disciplines. And it got to a point where I needed to really understand a little bit more about how business worked. So I decided to get a graduate degree in management, and just by location, and when I was working on a lot of website stuff, a lot of digital development, and also outside of higher ed at the time, early in my career. And I took this graduate degree in management, and it really transformed who I was in the world, transformed who I was from just sort of a, say, qualitative thinker interpreted things based on intuition to one who was very data focused, understood how data models worked and how economic models worked, and how you could sort of incorporate the qualitative and quantitative into the work that you do. And I sort of made that the cornerstone of my career to unite those things together, the art and science of graduate marketing, saying, we need to use our intuition and understand our audiences really well from a qualitative perspective. But we really have to look at the numbers from demand generation for particular fields and programs in geography to just, what kind of return you're getting on your advertising and marketing spend. So I'm grateful for the graduate educations I've received, and I'm passionate about sharing the possibilities of those experiences with future graduate students. And that's what keeps me going, working with my teams on a host of graduate programs that we market for and have partnerships with. So that's a little bit of my background. Hope it's a good context for our conversation.
Yeah, I think it is, and I think it's a good lead into what we want to talk about here. So I appreciate you sharing the value of what graduate degree meant for you. Because my first question is, I think we're seeing, especially in 2023, going into 2024, we're seeing the value of higher education in general be under more scrutiny than ever. So how have you worked with schools and clients to explain the value, specifically the value of graduate degrees in 2024 to prospective students?
I think there are, competitive forces at work that are trying to undermine the value of a graduate degree on a number of fronts, saying, hey, there's a cost here from an opportunity perspective. You could, coming right out of undergraduate, certain fields, in particular science, engineering, have these high starting salaries. And by getting a graduate degree, you're squandering that opportunity and, perhaps putting off the great compensation that could be coming your way. So fair enough in that argument, I'll accept it. Also, another argument is that there are tons of skills-based replacement offerings. And, these are akin to like Michael Porter's 5 forces of competition, right? So graduate marketing has so many forces of competition conspiring against at the moment. But, there are, of course, more than enough arguments to counter them in the contrary. So that on the skills replacement side, we have lots and lots of, MOOCs, we have Coursera, we have short courses, we have free training centers, we have LinkedIn Learning, we have Udemy, you name it. There are so many ways to get skills. And I think those are great resources. But when I think you're looking at something differently for graduate education, I think you're looking for not just change, I think you're looking for transformation. That's a more proper way of looking at the value of graduate education. You want a program that's going to give you a trajectory toward that either manager that's above you who has a particular position that earns a certain amount of money that you want to get to, or there's a person you want to become, a professional that you want to become, and graduate marketing is graduate education, is the shortcut to getting to that. And just building up skills in individual disciplines and software applications, and those are great, but you need a program that's going to be designed to put them all together and get you where you need to go. So we've been really emphasizing that transformative experience, a comprehensively designed curriculum, and really looking at the outcomes that institution delivers and getting you, really where you need to go. I think there's another argument to be made, Shane, about coming out of undergraduate, just sort of the momentum that you have and where you've come in your education and your major, and how, let's say, embedded and focused on it you are. So you might be, I'll bring up computer science again, you might be a senior in an undergraduate program and getting really good at machine learning, and you want to keep going on the research side and develop that, or you're getting really interested in a particular topic and you want to double down on that. And a graduate education gives you an enormous opportunity to continue that path you started and really master it. And that's the name of the degree, of course. And you're not going to lose that value. You're gonna multiply that value, those, whatever that 1 year or 2 years, if it's more in depth, of graduate education is ultimately going to pay off in the end. So many arguments to be made for graduate education still delivering tons and tons of value.
I really appreciate the point about the various levels of competition. When we think about our competition directly, I think a lot of times we think about oh, what are the schools that are in a blank mile radius? But really, we should be thinking about, like you said, LinkedIn Learning, Coursera, other options that people have to gain the skills and knowledge they need. And really, it speaks to that kind of motivation of I need these extra skills to get where I want to go. There are more options out there for you. But so how do we as marketers then explain, here's why a graduate degree is more valuable than that? You're getting all of these different things. So I really appreciate that point you made. And it, kind of gets me to my next question about motivations for graduate students to pursue their advanced degree. You and I would both agree that those motivations are very, very different than the traditional undergraduate student. So what are some of the key motivators that you see and you work with your clients on around graduate students, and how can marketers make sure they're effectively highlighting and addressing those in their messaging?
There's a couple of things there. The first is, I would say the number one answer we get is people are looking to advance in their current field, right? There's a certain level of achievement and a certain level of pedigree that individuals need when going after higher level positions or higher salary positions in their current industry. And so if you're looking to separate yourself from the competition for those positions, there are objective ways of doing that, right? And the first and foremost, I would say, in addition to on-the-job experience, is having an advanced degree. Saying, okay, you've shown that you're willing to put in the effort to increase your skill and transform who you are by putting in the hard work for graduate education. And so, nothing says that like a nice master's degree on the resume. So like that is, first and foremost, advancing in their current field. Second, I would say is to change careers. Someone who's looking for moving over from one career to another. I can't think of anything better for accomplishing that career task than a master's degree or graduate education of any kind. You want to move from, you took a, let's say, broad liberal arts subject as an undergraduate student. And while you may have absolutely loved, philosophy, and you didn't go to law school, or you loved being an English major and you didn't go into publishing, and you got this great education, now let's transform that awesome liberal arts education you had into some career-oriented field. Data analysis, public health, public administration, you name it. So many ways to transform an awesome liberal arts background into a career-focused, career-minded resume, a career-minded background. An institution will recruit you for and bring you on for. So, those two are my tops. And another is the third. I kind of touched upon it earlier. My answer was really advancing your undergraduate knowledge. This is for people who are going straight from undergrad to graduate. That idea that you really started on something strong and you're embedded in it at the moment and really moving in a nice direction, building that knowledge, going straight into a master's degree. Well, some people might frown upon it. Some parents maybe don't want to pay the bill. There's nothing to say that's not a great path, right? Because you're really motivated by the subject and want to go in depth, perhaps for a research track, perhaps independent projects that you want to continue to work on, maybe look at it as a catalyst to doing a startup. And so just, lots of great reasons to go straight out of undergraduate education and maybe even just, one more finishing year of getting a better, more attractive resume for a higher level, higher paying starting position. So, lots of great reasons, lots of great motivations, but the majority of them, of course, are career driven. And we as colleges and universities and the institutions that support them, really have to understand those motivations. That's key to delivering value. If you're a provost and you're designing programs with your faculty and program directors to people who are in our position, Shane, who are helping to package and market those degrees and reach the audiences to help facilitate their decision making. We need to understand those motivations and be able to articulate how the solutions we're bringing to the market are among the best decisions they can make.
I would say that that's one of the bigger disconnects I think that graduate marketing professionals probably experience on their campuses is the idea, especially in a liberal arts setting, the idea that, this is a more transactional experience for folks that are pursuing a graduate degree. They want to get to the next level of their career. They're looking for a specific outcome versus the undergraduate experience it's all about, finding out what you want to do, experiencing college. And so I think those two things are sometimes in opposition. So I think what you just mentioned is really important when kind of talking to leadership, talking to colleagues across campus. And it informs sort of the graduate student enrollment journey, which is what I want to talk with you about next. The student journey for graduate students and decision-making process is very different, sometimes spanning 3 years to make that decision from inquiry to, yes, I'm going to do this. So how can marketers kind of as effectively keep prospective graduate students engaged, knowing that the decision-making process is longer, but also balancing the need to meet bottom lines and achieve results and reporting out to leadership and things of that nature?
Hey everyone, it's Mallory. I'm hosting the Engage Summit this summer in Raleigh, North Carolina. The theme of the conference is AI Got You. We're not just talking theories. This conference is your guide to understanding and applying AI at your institution. By the end, you won't just get AI. You'll be ready to lead your campus through an AI transformation. It's for everyone who wants to use AI to level up everything you're doing. Whether your focus is to recruit or retain, the summit offers a platform to learn, network, and bring back actionable insights to enhance your student engagement strategies. I hope you'll join me and some of your favorite Enrollify creators in Raleigh on June 25th and 26th, like Jamie Hunt, Dustin Ramsdell, and Allison Tercio. Use the discount code Enrollify50, and you can register for just $99. So join us at the Engage Summit this June. Learn more and register at engage.element451.com. We can't wait to see you there.
Everyone who's worked in higher education marketing understands the concept of a funnel, right? You have sort of your discovery research period or the awareness period where you're really just thinking about a degree you might want to pursue or a school you might want to become a part of. You're doing independent research, you're hearing from people, you're putting feelers out into your network saying, hey, I'm kind of interested in here. And then people will start chiming in for you, sending you things. You do research on your own. There was a study by LinkedIn a few years back called the Graduate Intender Study, which I liked, that put forth that people make a short list of 3 schools when they're in this, sort of interest or initial interest phase, and they make that short list before reaching out to that school, before becoming an inquiry, and that in the majority of the time, people are choosing a school from that short list that they make. And so, the whole idea is, how do I, market to people who are doing it? So we'll get to that later. So that's, your initial phase, right? That discovery awareness phase. Second, of course, is the inquiry phase, where they are coming and actually kicking your tires a little bit more, perhaps coming to attend an event, filling out your form. Once they've identified themselves to us, we consider the nurture phase, right? Where we're sharing with them valuable information about our programs, about our institution, about the field, about success stories that we've had. And that could be a long loop, Shane, right? As you mentioned, it could be 3 years from that initial inquiry to when they enroll. But that's the cycle that we're dealing with. So thankfully we have CRM software that helps us manage that. We've got great solutions like Element 451 and Slate, and you name that help us manage that nurture cycle, whether it be, 2 months on the short end to, 3 years on the long end. We've got the application phase where the student actually applies, and more often than not, we need to really nudge them to complete that application. People are busy in their lives, and we need to move them forward. So again, our CRM becomes very important in this process. In the application phase, once they've submitted their application, we have to sort of wait our time for all the materials to come in, and then make the decision. And we need to be in communication with them during that time, keeping them engaged, reminding them of why they applied. And then when that decision comes in, of course, there may be a multitude of institutions to which they've applied. And when they've been admitted to our institution, we have to reinforce that this is a great decision. And other students have come through this program and gotten great success and great value out of that. So it's really important to demonstrate outcomes in that admitted yield phase. And once they've committed to us a little bit, we need to, keep them engaged also until the program begins. And then most important of all, I believe from a marketing perspective, is delivering an excellent experience to those students. Because people tell each other, and especially if it's a bad experience, if there's coming out of the gate, getting a bad professor in a class. I know that doesn't happen at any institution, but wanting to make sure that you're delivering quality and value, and that, we're keeping an eye on the quality of the product that's in our classrooms and in our online forums, and making sure that product is great, so that the next student we have to go out and recruit can hear those good things and the values being constantly delivered. So you look at that from a mental model perspective, and it's a lot to swallow, but it's one piece at a time, but you have to look at all the pieces. And that top of the funnel awareness, that first phase, there's a lot to think about there. It's managing the brand of the institution, right? So that students have to have a little bit of impression. It's perhaps less important on the graduate side, right? Well, you touched upon the undergraduate contrast. The undergraduate's the coming age of experience. They're looking to buy the university. At the graduate level, they're looking to enroll in the program itself. So the program's reputation and perhaps that school that it belongs to is more important than the university's brand, although the university brand is important as well. So, making sure that when they're searching out and doing that initial research, what are they finding? Are they finding terrible comments out in Reddit about that program? And what can you do to correct that misinformation? And hopefully it's misinformation. And, just being aware of what people are finding about your graduate programs. So lots of things that we do, to help with that, just social listening, using machine learning to put a category on the conversations that are happening around your programs out in the wild. Just looking at this journey as something to be not afraid of, but managed as part of a larger program.
Yeah, that's a great point. I like that you went from kind of start to finish on that decision-making process, because I think, again, you mentioned earlier in our talk here that graduate marketing is arguably, you could make the argument, more difficult than undergraduate marketing. I think we're starting from a place in the graduate space where we're trying to convince people to come back to school, to make this major commitment to something, their time, their money, their bandwidth, their personal lives. So you're gonna have to sacrifice some of that. So I think it's really important that you just laid all of that out to really shed a light on this is how graduate students are making this decision. Not the same as undergraduate students. Undergraduate students, when we're talking about the search phase and we're purchasing lists, like these are people that are intending to go to school. Now we've just got to explain the value of our school. Graduate students, if they're in the just sort of really peripheral awareness phase or really just starting to think about this, we're really selling them. It's a sales process from start to finish, even after they deposit, even after they commit to us. There's some guarantees that they're going to, at the 11th hour, not back out. So I really appreciate you kind of driving down that whole path of here's how graduate students make this decision, because I think it's really informative to people not in the weeds of graduate marketing every day. And so I kind of want to take a look back to the changes that you've seen in the graduate recruitment space since the COVID-19 pandemic. How have things shifted? How have the pressures and the responsibilities of graduate professionals shifted? And what are some of the changes that you've seen during that time period?
Yes. So I think there's the most obvious change that was happening anyway was just the convenience factor of online education. That was a mega trend that was happening already. And I would say that, we were, if I was looking at some particular metrics like graduate searches, graduate Google searches on a weighted model between on campus and online programs, would probably be 50-50 of those searches and the intention of the individuals that were in them. And since COVID, that's been, a shift to about 80% of the searches revolve around online graduate programs. So that's a major shift there. And, one that I think will continue, of course. And there's just so much about convenience that a vast majority of graduate students are looking for, that I think that there will be a shift back to hybrid, but there will always need to be some level of flexibility for individuals to consume the course offerings online. Let's just face it. Like, if you're not at least making an effort to say there's a hybrid offering here, or we're making it flexible enough for you to consume this content asynchronously to fit it into your life someplace, that you're really going to be facing an uphill battle. All right. So that's job one. The second thing I'd like to say about one of the transformations from COVID is the recruitment process, and our use of events in graduate marketing has shifted rather significantly. I'll give the example of, let's say, an on-campus open house or information session for graduate studies. I could count on, let's say, the show rate of an on-campus information session to be somewhere between 50 and 75% prior to COVID. And now I am seeing situations where in some schools at least, it's more like a 25% show rate for an on-campus event post-COVID. And, how do I interpret this? I suggest, I really think it's that, people are interested. It just takes a lot more to get people out of the house and to show up at a place. People were a lot more motivated and willing to just, get out and go someplace before. And now it's like, maybe I'll, do it the next time, and something will get in the way. Actually getting people to show up someplace is harder than ever before. And that is one of the key things for us. We all have great charismatic faculty who can put on a great meeting or a great workshop or information session, and they can be so pivotal in their role in recruiting students. And that's something that shouldn't be, missed out on. It's like that's historically been the number one correlating factor with recruiting students is exposure to faculty in the program, and getting them in front of those faculty is harder. So the need to put on a great virtual show is a natural outcome of this. And we've had schools asking us to step up the production value of those virtual information sessions to do just that, to have greater storytelling ability, have a greater, more engaged experience. How do we engage these virtual audiences so they don't just, turn up the cameras and lay back and listen passively? So asking us to have engagement surveys and introductory videos and looping videos while they're in the waiting room, and live, green screen backgrounds for the faculty to talk over the slides that they have to make it more engaged. So a higher production value being put on these virtual information sessions to counteract those low show rates that we have on those events is a big transformation. And finally, just, the absolute deep emphasis on digital marketing and being in that marketplace. That's where students are, graduate marketing in particular, that's where students are doing all their research. Doing all their research in the digital spaces. They are, to some extent, the algorithms on the digital platforms are exposing them to more competition. Facebook, for example, will categorize someone as interested in graduate studies if they looked at another school's ad, and now they'll see yours. Or if you put the effort into marketing and you happen to hit a student and get engaged, well, Facebook's adding them to that list of individuals who are interested in grad studies, and they're going to show that same person competition's at. So that competition heats up as these algorithms get going. So all this makes our jobs a little bit harder post-COVID, but I think we still have the value proposition of the transformations of the programs that we offer, their ability to alter the trajectory of a career and improve it. That's still there, but yeah, lots of changes.
Yeah, I feel that in life in general and in graduate marketing. So the next, as we wrap up here, Mike, I'm asking all of our guests and so you get first crack here because this is episode number 1. So we absolutely will revisit these. So no pressure. How do you see graduate enrollment marketing changing over the next several years, given specifically the undergraduate enrollment cliff coming up? What are some of your predictions of things that we'll see?
Okay, well, number one, which anyone who's listening to this who's interested in graduate education, graduate marketing already knows, and that's that your presidents are going to put the pressure on graduate to make up for shortfalls. And to the extent that they're knowledgeable at the numbers in the space, those expectations may be unrealistic, maybe overly optimistic and hopeful about the role that graduate can play in offsetting potential shortfalls in your undergraduate market. So that's number one. The expectations coming down from the board and the president's office are going to be high and say, okay, well, we need you to make up for these shortfalls for graduate marketing. So the pressure will continue for people in this profession. Number two, I think that there's a potential for an explosive new set of fields to come about as a result of AI, and we may have a renaissance, if you will. I've been around long enough to see some like bubbles in graduate marketing, graduate education. We extremely early in my career, just sort of like this transformation to a computer-centric world created a massive bubble of graduate education, a real emphasis on, the MBA and its transformative power, created somewhat of a business marketing bubble at some point. I think we've seen analytics programs create new opportunities and allow institutions to grow enrollment by, having new offerings. So I think the realm of AI, while maybe no one's thought of it yet, and certainly the great minds aren't thinking about it, I think there's an opportunity there for another renaissance and new types of programs that we can't even think about yet. And finally, Shane, I think, I'm a big kind of tech geek, and I'm into a lot of experimental things. And I taught in an interactive department in a college for 17 years in the art department. So I did a lot of experimental media stuff. And so I think metaverse, AR, VR are going to be transformative for graduate education. And, Apple's coming out with their Vision Pro on February 2nd. And so they're getting deep into the game of immersive spatial computing. And, what could be more engaging and exciting and a better canvas to apply all these new developments than training and education that, needs simulation, needs experience. And so, to the extent to which our great faculty minds, curriculum developers can work with technologists, and then, of course, marketers to bring these forces together and create really compelling graduate offerings. I think it's an exciting opportunity. So look for lots of innovation in the metaverse, AR, VR space, and graduate education.
Yeah, I'm really interested in that AI bubble, creating new programs. I think it's a really interesting thing to watch as we go forward here. So Mike, that's it for our episode. Really appreciate you joining us. I really enjoyed this conversation, as I usually do, talking to you about graduate marketing, but I think others will too. So for the listeners, I hope you enjoyed this special episode of the Enrollify podcast. Today's episode is part of a 4-part series on graduate marketing and enrollment management, brought to you by Enrollify at Element 451. If you enjoyed this episode, do us a favor, hit that follow and subscribe button, and please join me next week for part 2 of this series, where we'll be exploring graduate student experience with a dean and faculty member from the Medill School at Northwestern University. Mike, thanks again for joining me.
Shane, it was an absolute pleasure. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks everybody for listening.
The Higher Ed Pulse is part of the Enrollify Podcast Network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional. Our show helps higher ed marketers and admission pros find their next big idea and features a selection of the industry's best as your hosts. Learn from Brian Gross, Eddie Francis, Jenny Lee Fowler, and so many of your favorite leaders in higher ed. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.